Hi, and thank you for joining us here in Remodeling Berks. I'm your host, Lloyd Long, a certified kitchen designer and operator of Ldesignskitchens LLC. The purpose of our program is to educate you on your home. And I wanted to thank everyone for all the positive comments we've been getting on the show. And we've actually asked on prior programs for people to contact us via email for suggestions on upcoming programs. And we did receive a few emails on about replacing your roof. So we decided the topic for our program today would be replacing your roof. And to help us today, my guest is Kerwin Mass. How you doing? Kerwin, how are you?
Good.
Kerwin is the president of Mast Roofing and Construction.
That's right.
So, Kerwin's going to educate us today on roofing materials and also what you should do to replace your roof. Now, Kerwin, besides having a leak, how do you know when it's time to replace your roof?
Well, Lloyd, there's a few things you can look at. Here we have two types of shingles. They're asphalt shingles, and these are called a 3-tab shingle. You can see they have 3 tabs. They're a foot wide each, and these are the 20-year shingles, 25. And then we have an architectural shingle here, and these are much less prone to blowing off with the wind. As you can see, they're solid throughout and have a second layer. So you have two main types. So the main thing to look at in trying to determine if your roof needs replaced or not would be you have a lot of granules on here, and if you clean out your gutters and notice a lot of granules in your gutters, that's one sign. If you notice any cracking, which
if we bring the first picture up here, we can see a roof that needs to be replaced, and
you can see some cracking in the shingles. You see granulation loss, black spots on the roof. If you're missing tabs, for example, if one of these 3 tabs would blow off, that's one sign where you need a repair done to it. Those are some of the easier signs. And if you go in your attic and look for, you see rusty nails or water spots on the plywood, that's another way to know that you have a leak, and you should have it take a look at it. Some of the ways to tell.
Okay. Now the basic difference between, you have asphalt shingles are still the most popular material used for roofing, correct?
Right. Yeah, they're one of the cheapest materials you can buy and most affordable. So that's typically why people get them. The main difference between why people mainly are going from these 3 tabs to the architectural shingles would be the weight of them and the less chance for blowing off in windstorms. And they typically, you can get 30 or lifetime roofs on the other ones, on the architectural. So that's typically why people will pick a roof like this. It's one of the most inexpensive roofs to put on.
All right. You're saying 3 tabs. You can kind of see this shingle here. It has 3 sections or 3 tabs. It's kind of single thickness.
Single layer, yep.
This being the architectural shingle. Now this is a 20-year
20
product.
to 25-year, yeah.
The architectural shingle is how many years?
They go from 30, 40 in lifetime, and so it's much heavier. These come in. The 3 tabs are about 240 pounds per 100 square feet. These can go up to 320 or more.
It's probably about twice as thick here on this portion. This is going to be the portion that's going to be exposed, correct?
Right.
When you install a shingle, you have this overlaps on top.
Right.
So you just have this portion here that's exposed. So you're getting a longer life out of this product because the portion that is exposed is twice as thick.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. What's the basic process for replacing a roof?
So when you want to replace your roof, what we would do is we'd come in and we'd remove the existing shingles. Some people don't remove them all, but it's better to remove them so that way you can tell if any damage is done to the plywood from a leak or from improper ventilation, things like that. So you take all the old shingles off and the felt paper off, all the nails, and then you put new felt paper on, and you put water ice barrier at the bottom to prevent from ice dams and new flashings, and then you go to ridge vents and capping shingles, and you can see in the picture here what we have what's called a roofer's buggy, and that'll allow us to protect your shrubbery and keep everything a lot cleaner, and puts the shingles right into that instead of on the ground and picking them up. and you dump that into a dumpster or a trailer and haul it away. It's a very clean process.
All right, that's kind of something unique. Instead of throwing all the material off where you will get some debris scattered about your property, you're able to actually lift this up right to the roof level and just kind of put all the debris in there.
Yeah, it's a time-saving device, and also keeps it very clean, and homeowners really like to see that come in and doesn't leave tracks or ruts in your yard because it's wide tires and everything like that.
Now, what happens to the material once you tear it off the roof? Does it go into a landfill, or what happens to it?
Yeah, what we do is we then take it to everything gets recycled. The shingles get taken to a transfer station, and they then grind them up and have a magnet, and nails come out with the magnet, and so they get put back into the millings on the roads. So it's a green. You know, we don't just put it in the landfill. All the wood, any wood, would get recycled, and things like that at the transfer station.
Sounds
and
great.
all the metal products gets recycled also.
Good. Now, where are these products manufactured at?
We use GAF Elk products, and they're manufactured in Myerstown, Pennsylvania, and also Baltimore, Maryland is where the East Coast typically gets all their asphalt, or a lot of the manufacture that we use that we're certified with. So that's where they come from. And it's a pretty cool plant to see it in operation. They go through a lot of shingles in a day.
Well, it's great to see that it is something that's locally produced, and again, we're not shipping it from overseas. So again, we're kind of improving on the carbon footprint as well. Now, this product is an oil-based product, right? Petroleum-based.
That's right.
So what happens with pricing? I mean, last year we had, I guess it was last year, where gas prices went all the way up to about $4 a gallon. What happens to the product price?
Yeah, with asphalt shingles, crude oil is the main underlying factor, as with supply and demand. So if you have crude prices going up, you're going to have eventually shingles will follow, and it's the same as with paving the roads. It's just they use the bottom of the barrel of the oil. So last year shingles went up considerably, and then when gas fell back down, unfortunately shingles didn't go back down. So typically, if you delay putting off your roof, it's usually shingles are going to hold steady, if not slowly increase each year. So they're definitely tied into the price of oil, and it's harder to forecast out further projections of where they'll be at, because the oil fluctuates so much, and now that the economy has slowed down, they've lowered their production, so they've sort of artificially sometimes the prices, even though consumers aren't using as much crude, there's still the prices are high because they're not making as many shingles. So that's usually how oil affects, just like everything else. Right,
and it's got to be kind of tough to lock in pricing too in your project. If you do get a quote from a roofer, certainly you can't expect them to hold that quote for you if you're waiting 2, 3, or 4 months to start your project. Now that asphalt shingles are the most popular, but there are a ton of other materials out there that are available. And I'd like to talk to Kerwin about some of those. And the first one I'd like to talk about here is slate, which of course is something that's very popular in the Pennsylvania area, being a lot of colonial homes. Kerwin, tell me about this product.
Yeah, this is a real slate. There's two main types of slate. It's a hard vein and a soft vein slate. This comes from Vermont, and they have a 100-year warranty on them. Pennsylvania slate is usually a soft vein, which is 50 to 75 years, and it's one of the best materials, longest lasting materials out there. It's a heavier material, so it has to have the proper decking underneath it. You can't just typically put it on plywood, because typically new houses aren't built for the weight of real slate. So they've come out with a synthetic slate, which is shown here. They have numerous synthetic slates that mimic real slate, and they come in different widths, and so they're a lot lightweight. They're flexible, and you can bend them. So the materials cost about the same, but the labor is a lot less, because you can use a nail gun to put them on, and you can cut them with a knife instead of hand cutting them. So I definitely recommend the real slate, but you have to have the right type of house to put it on, and the cost is for a roof, short term, it's going to be the most expensive roof to put on, but if you figure it depreciated over 75 or 100 years, it's going to cost you the least amount.
So a slate roof like this could actually last you 75 to 100 years?
We take off a lot of roofs that are Pennsylvania that are 50 to 75 years. There's slate roofs from peach bottom slate, things like that, that are hundreds of years old. They've been documented, so it's one of the most long-lasting materials that there is to install.
So really, if you have a home that you're going to keep in the family, certainly slate would be something that you want to consider. Plus the look too. It's all these asphalt products they try and make to kind of mimic the real stone. Now this synthetic slate, what's this made out of? Is this actually
there's numerous plastic composite materials that a lot of different manufacturers have made it out of. Some are more prone to cracking or warping. The edges warp up sometimes, so it's not one that I usually recommend for long term, because they haven't been proven. If you look at their warranties up close, they're not what they're not going to be 100 years. They're going to be prorated after 10 or 20 years, pretty good. So it's something that's out there, but it doesn't have a track record like real slate does.
So it's a relatively new product.
Yeah, within the last 10 or so years, it's started to become more popular.
That's kind of being out only 10 years. Certainly, it's difficult to know what it's going to be like in the real world. For the 50, 75-year mark. So,
right.
And then we can pull up our next picture here. We can see this is actually a slate roof installed. And keep in mind too, as Kerwin said, that you're kind of your standard home with trusses and plywood. Don't expect to be able to put this product right on there. You are actually going to have to install solid wood on top of the plywood.
It's recommended to have wood because wood's been proven more than plywood hasn't been proven for 100 years. So you want to make sure you have a solid decking.
Right. Well, that makes sense. You're not going to put a 100-year product on top of something that's only going to last for 50 years.
Right.
Okay. Now our next picture here, this actually shows the synthetic slate. So it is a very, very similar look.
Right. It can look very attractive. That's a nice picture of a roof that was synthetic slate.
All right. Now, can you tell me a little bit about some of these other products here that are available?
All right. The next products we have are cedar roofs. Cedar is the next, in cost-wise, from a slate. Typically, this is called taper sawn hand split shakes, and they're more curvy, and you can see they're thick and then right here, and then they go thin.
So it's a very rustic look.
Rustic look, and then they have what's called taper sawn shakes here, and they're tapered from being very thin to thicker. And these are typically more common. You can get them in different grades or in different thicknesses. You want to get a high grade so that they will warp less. So those are the main types of cedar roofs that are installed. And typically the newer cedar roofs don't last quite as long as the older cedar does, because the old trees were more older, so they had more rings packed tightly together, so they're more dense, so they were less resistant to rot. Whereas the new ones, they're hybrid trees growing them fast as they can. So typically a cedar roof nowadays will only last 25 to 30 years if it has proper ventilation. If it doesn't have proper ventilation, we've already replaced them in 12 to 15 years. So it's very important with cedar to have it on lath or have proper ventilation when you install that sort of roof.
Right. And I have to say, I love cedar roofs. I think the look is certainly my favorite out of all the products.
Yeah.
Well, we need to take a break right now. We'll be right back to Remodeling Berks.
You're watching Remodeling Berks on BCTV.org. Be informed. Be involved. Be a member. For membership information, go to www.bctv.org/support/membership. To find other information about home ownership and house repair, go to bctv.org.
All right, we're back here at Remodeling Berks. The topic of our show today is